Welcome to Ruin a Bad Guy's Day radio podcast with fraud expert Skip Myers.
This is your guide to fighting fraud and chargebacks.
Learn the best fraud prevention solutions and strategies.
How to enhance your fraud prevention team.
And how to prosecute criminals. Now, here's your host, Skip Myers.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining Ruin a Bad Guy's Day Radio. Hey, I'm Skip Myers. I'll be your host today. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Hey, we got a great show lined up today, and as always, some great stories about stupid criminals. And today, I want to talk about tech support scams and those bogus tech support phone calls that all of you are probably getting. And I'm telling you, I'm sick and tired of getting those calls. I mean, all the time, these people are calling me and telling me there's something wrong with my computer. I mean, how is that happening? But I'm sure all of you have had some form of a call just like that, or even a phony baloney phishing email stating the same thing. So we're going to talk about some of these tech support scams that are out there right now, what's being done about it, and talk about a great case actually that was just recently pled out in the state of North Carolina by the United States Department of Justice. Great case there that really highlights what the government and other large corporations like Microsoft are doing to fight these tech support scammers that are internationally based and targeting us here in the United States. So great information there. But first, as always, we like to talk about the stupid criminals on Ruin a Bad Guy's Day Radio. So here from the New York Post reports credit card fraud suspects nabbed over a careless typo. This is really about minding your P's, the article states. An eagle-eyed clerk at a new Neiman Marcus store in Hudson Yard helped bust a credit card fraud ring by noticing a lowercase letter on a bogus card that just didn't look right, according to law enforcement. Workers at the West Side Development Sleek News shopping mall were told to be on the lookout for phony baloney cards. So when the unidentified clerk noticed the word please wasn't capitalized at the beginning of a sentence on the back of a Neiman Marcus card, he raised the alarm, sources said. Please call toll-free 1-888-462-4725 for program assistance was on the back of the card. However, the word please was not capitalized, especially the capital of P, the capitalizing P. So the bad guys need to go back to school, it looks like. So two other people apparently were arrested, but this is after that same clerk noticed the same typo on two other phony cards on two other occasions over a week and then told their manager, who then notified the police, leading to the arrest of the total of 3 people. So it looks like 2 other people were arrested at this luxury store chain with fake cards bearing the same exact error. Well, I guess they're not editing their own counterfeit work there. That's kind of sad for them. They should probably learn about grammar and go back to school, you bad guys. Shame on you. So anyway, it looks like the suspects were all linked to a credit card fraud ring based in Flushing, Queens, New York, according to sources. They allegedly used the cards to try to buy thousands of dollars worth of Chanel and Louis Vuitton handbags. In total, the 5 suspects allegedly tried to swipe more than $51,000 in designer handbags. That is amazing. And according to the police, these crimes are listed as grand larcenies, according to them. So that's no big surprise there. $51,000 in designer handbags. And the bad guys are caught because of very alert cashier who noticed a typo on the bogus card. So way to go, Neiman Marcus and the local authorities there in New York. Way to go. That's awesome. Good job there. Bad guys busted again. Not too smart, and time to go probably back to school. I'm sure in jail they'll be able to find some books on spelling and basic grammar. But anyway, I'm glad you guys could come back today and listen to this podcast. I want to thank Matt Christensen with fraudnotfrog.com. Last week great interview with Matt with the Audit Lock Consultancy Group, where he heads up all kinds of information to help you learn more about internal audit controls and cybersecurity. So that's a great group there, Matt. Thank you so much. Great interview. And I hope a lot of you got out of that. So feel free to hit the podcast notes from last week and hit Matt's site for more information. But so today, let's get to what the topic is of what we want to talk about today, and that's tech support scams. And I'm just really sick and tired of getting these phone calls from these bad guys trying to lure me in to make me believe there's something wrong with my computer, and these never-ending emails basically stating the same thing. So what's interesting about this is that every podcast that I do, we really research a lot of the information that's actually happening to us and happening to you in the public, and see what we can do to raise that awareness to make us better at fighting the bad guys and ruining their day and taking them off their game. So tech support scams. So really what the crux of this is, really Microsoft is doing a great job cracking down on tech support scammers. And a lot of these tech support scammers are actually running their own call centers, international call centers in different places of the world. And so Microsoft's really doing a great job. And of course, that all starts with reports that you provide to them about the same thing we're talking about. Those phony baloney emails telling you got something wrong with your PC, or a phone call that's telling you the same thing. So what's interesting is that, a lot of people do not understand how tech support scam work. And so let's go over this real quick. Scammers will call you directly on your phone and pretend to be a representative of a software company like Microsoft. And a lot of times they might even spoof the caller ID so it displays a legitimate support center's phone number. So that's pretty tricky, right? And that's so that they can gain your trust. So then they might ask you to install applications that give them remote access to your device. And that's very tricky too. So using that remote access, these scammers, what they do, they misrepresent normal system output as signs of problems. And that's how they lure you in here. So scammers may also initiate contact by displaying fake error messages on websites that you visit. So that may be a pop-up. And that pop-up will display support numbers enticing you to call them. They can also put on your browser full screen and display other pop-up messages that just won't go away. They're just aggravating. So I've had that happen to my PC as well. Some of you guys may have experienced that. Very aggravating. And eventually what it does is it locks your browser. So these fake error messages aim to trick you into calling them and calling this particular support hotline. So it's important you don't do that. That's where they get you right there. So basically when you engage with those scammers, they're going to offer fake solutions for your problem, the problem that they're telling you have that's really not legit, and ask for payment in the form of a one-time fee or some sort of subscription service for that particular advice. It could be your laptop piece, your PC at home, your desktop, something like that. So what do you do? I mean, what do you guys do about this? Anybody out there? So I know what I do. I get very upset at first because I know what's going on, but luckily that doesn't happen so much, and I can identify it much quicker now and understanding what I should do and the process I should take. Some of the great information out there that's available to all of us is really on the Microsoft website, and how to really fight these tech support scams. And so I'll put some of the Microsoft information in the podcast notes, including a link to their website describing popular scam types and what you can do if the scammer already has your info. Let's talk about a little bit further in more detail about the different kinds of scam types. So there's different kinds of tech support scams. And again, let's just go back to the original statement about what those are. They're designed to trick you into believing that your computer needs to be fixed. In order to do that, you have to pay them for that technical support service. So again, we've talked about phishing emails before, and this is a very similar scheme. The bad guys' intent here is to create that sense of urgency and to be very persistent with their message, because they know how important your computer is to you to work on every single day. So phone scams, what are tech support phone scams? So in this kind of scam, the scammers will call you and claim to be from a tech support team at Microsoft or some other software vendor. And then they offer to help solve all of your computer problems. And again, there's going to be a sense of urgency to this call. It's going to be very persistent, and it's probably going to take you off guard because you're not expecting this phone call. So a lot of times the scammers will use publicly available phone directories. I mean, that information is readily available. Our phone numbers are out there to be used. And what happens after that, they might also even know your name and other personal information when they call you. So, this way is a little more personalized. It's designed to make you believe this is a legitimate call. So, they can even probably guess what operating system you're using by a little social engineering stuff. So the majority of the public uses a PC, which is going to be Windows-based, probably, with Microsoft, and with a little social engineering. If you're an Apple person, they'll probably figure out your OS on your Mac is. So that's what they do. They're very intelligent people. So once they've gained your trust and pretty much convinced you they know what they're talking about, what kind of PC you have, what operating system, and so on, they might ask for your username and password and probably direct you to a legitimate site to install software that will let them access your computer remotely to fix it. This is where it gets really, really tricky here. So if you install that software and provide those credentials, your computer and your personal information is now exposed to that bad guy. In other words, that remote software that you downloaded, that you were convinced to download to help fix your computer by this fraudster, opens up the gateway into your computer by this bad guy, probably sitting in some room in a foreign country. So, even though law enforcement can trace phone numbers, I mean, the bad guys often use disposable mobile phones. We call them burner phones, or even stolen mobile phones. And sometimes in foreign countries, there are still pay phones, and they may use those as well. So you should really, really, really treat all unsolicited phone calls with a high level of skepticism, because those things are designed to build trust within you and a sense of urgency that you need to do something right now to fix your PC. So slow down when you get an unsolicited phone call, especially a phone call involving a tech support person saying there's something wrong with your PC and you need to fix it right away. Slow down and really understand what this is about. This is a tech support scam happening right before your eyes. So that's a phone scam. A little more personalized. They're calling you and creating that sense of urgency. They're going to be extremely persistent. So what's the other tech support scam? Well, that's the web scam. And the web scams basically are another tech support scam with a website that makes you believe you have a problem with your PC, same sort of thing, but you may be redirected to these websites automatically by a malicious ad or a pop-up found on other sites that you're, hitting on the internet. And some of these involve download locations that offer free software downloads and things like that. So avoid those places that offer free software and things like that. There's a lot of malicious content, and we talked about this before. Malware. What is malware? Malware is designed to really get inside your computer and steal your credentials. So anyway, these websites can be used for following different kinds of tactics to convince you that there's a problem with your PC that needs to be fixed right away. So who's had a blue screen error? Yep, you probably have. So there's going to create a fake blue screen error on your PC. There's probably a fake Windows activation dialog box. There's various fake system error pop-ups are going to be showing up, and it may show that in this pop-up that supposedly you have some sort of malware infection or shows some sort of bogus malicious activity. All this is fake. There's nothing wrong with your computer. They're making you believe that there is something wrong with your computer. So you can also use these other techniques to make their claim more believable. What they do is try to put an image on your browser or screen there and making the error appear as though it's coming from Windows instead of a web page. They're going to try to remotely disable your task manager, maybe even slide into place some audio messages. All these things are designed to create worry within you and create a sense of urgency so that you abide by their directions and pay for a service to clean up your computer from this tech support issues. So what should you do? So first off, what Microsoft says, and this is just some common sense stuff. So let's recap. How can you protect yourself? So be wary of unsolicited phone calls or pop-up images on your device saying something like there's an infection or virus on your computer, something that's unsolicited. Microsoft states that they never proactively reach out to you to provide unsolicited PC or technical support. They just don't do that. So any communication it has with you must be initiated by you. Don't call the phone number in a pop-up window on your device, and always be cautious about clicking on notifications asking you to scan your computer or download software. And that software is probably that remote software that the bad guys are going to use to get inside your PC. So many of these scammers try to fool you into thinking that their notifications are legitimate. This is how this scam works. So never give control of your computer to any third party unless you confirm that's a legitimate representative of a computer support team with whom you're already a customer. So if you're not a customer from this company that's calling you, do not fall for this scam. So if you're skeptical, take down that person's information down and then report it to the local authorities. And also you can report it to Microsoft. Microsoft.com has a page there to report a scam. And so that's highly recommended that you do that. Microsoft's been very aggressive going after these tech support scammers to help us fight this fraud. So let's talk about something that was really big with the Department of Justice. Just just recently, a North Carolina man pled guilty for his role in an international tech support scam. So this is where companies like Microsoft are working with the federal government to go after these tech support scammers to protect us. A Charlotte, North Carolina man pleaded guilty to conspiracy to access a protected computer for his role in an international tech support scam that defrauded hundreds of victims, including seniors, of more than $3 million. So this tech support scam, a lot of times is very effective with senior citizens. And again, it creates that fear. It creates a sense of urgency. They're very persistent, and they often target seniors. So the Assistant Attorney General there in North Carolina has made this announcement that an individual named Bishop Mattel, he's 24 years old, pled guilty before a U.S. magistrate judge, currently released on bond. Sentencing date has not been set quite yet, but according to this indictment released by the Department of Justice, the information in the plea agreement, Mattel was part of this conspiracy that carried out an international internet scheme or tech support scam by placing fake pop-up ads on victims' computers to convince them they had a serious computer problem and induce them to pay for purported technical support services and then to resolve the issue. Okay, so this bad guy admitted in court that he and another co-conspirator actually resided in Charlotte, North Carolina, and they were owners and managers of a company they created called Capstone Technologies, LLC, also headquartered in Charlotte, that claimed to provide computer-related services to customers. And Capstone looks like conducted business using several different aliases. We won't talk about all those, but it looks like the bad guys carried out their tech support scam by using a call center located in India. So they partner up with some bad guys in India, all set up to handle this tech support calls with potential victims. So this is a very elaborate scheme and scam by fraudsters who are very knowledgeable about how this system works. So according to the information in the indictment, the pop-up ads were a central part of the conspiracy's tech support scam altogether here. So these individuals and other co-conspirators purchased blocks of malicious pop-up adware from publishers around the world. So let me say that again. So these bad guys purchased blocks of malicious pop-up adware from publishers around the world. So the fake pop-ups would suddenly appear on your computer and it would freeze your screen, prompting you, the victim, to call this Capstone Technologies at the numbers shown where? Shown on the pop-up ad. So it's just like what we talked about and what some of you have probably seen on your own PC. So it looks like when the victims called this India-based Tech Support Center for Assistance, the co-conspirators use remote access tools to gain control of the victim's computer. So that's what we talked about before. Do not be lured into being convinced you should download this remote software, because once you do, that's when the bad guys can get into your PC. So once the bad guys were in control of these victims' computers, the scammers identified various fictitious causes for the victim's purported computer malfunction. Now remember, this pop-up and these other ways the bad guys are doing this tech support scam, they're creating this on your computer. It's not really happening. They're making you believe it is because they're freezing your computer or showing up a phony baloney blue screen. So what they're doing is that they're telling you about these problems, but these are fictitious causes for what's going on with your computer. So a lot of times this don't include letting you know or make you believe there's a presence of malware or other computer viruses. And so what happens, you, the victim, or these seniors actually start paying for a virus cleanup or other tech support services being offered by the fraudsters. So it looks like the indictment also says the co-conspirators would charge victims between $200 and $2,000 to make these computers operable again. It's almost holding your computer for ransom until you pay the money, and then it gets cleaned up, I guess. So this is crazy. So Mattel and his co-conspirator bad guys defrauded hundreds of victims throughout the United States, some of whom were elderly and senior citizens, of more than $3 million. So it looks like the FBI actually conducted this investigation and worked with the United States Department of Justice and the Assistant Attorney General there in North Carolina. So great job, guys. That's awesome. So right now, too, back in March, it looks like U.S. Attorney's Office has created an initiative that aims to combat elder financial exploitation by expanding efforts to investigate and prosecute financial scams that specifically target seniors and educate older adults on how to identify scams and avoid being victims of financial fraud. So that's another part of this podcast. It's all about education and awareness, getting the word out there to people who don't know better, and really educating them to be on the lookout, because they are targets for these tech support scammers. And if you've never been a victim of a tech support scam, use this information and go out there and educate others so that they do not fall victim to these bad guys operating all across the world to try to defraud you of your money. So a lot of this information is going to be available in the podcast notes. I'll include some of the information from the United States Attorney's Office and the United States Department of Justice, great case from the FBI, and I'll include some helpful hints and notes from Microsoft that we spoke about just earlier, talking a little bit more in detail about what to do if you feel like you fell victim to a tech support scam, what you can do to clean up your computer and fix it, and how you can report the bad guys to the authorities, which is so important. Hey guys, I hope this has been helpful today. This is the kind of information that Ruin a Bad Guys Day, we want to get out there and share, educate people. Everybody out there is exposed to all kinds of different kinds of malware and viruses being sent our way by bad guys for one form or another, for one really purpose, to defraud us of our money. And the best way to combat kind of scam is to really arm yourself with knowledge and be aware of what's going on out there in the real world. If you have a PC, that PC is the object of desire for bad guys. Your personal information's on it, and everything that you do probably during the day to communicate with loved ones or at work, the bad guys know you need that PC. So a tech support scam for them works quite often. So guys, hey, if you like the podcast, please go to Apple iTunes and like us. Hit those 5 stars. That's really helpful. Helps really growing this podcast more and more every day. I want to thank everybody so much for sending in those emails and a lot of that great feedback. And a lot of the content in this show is really coming from people just like you, talking to people just like me who all want to ruin a bad guy's day and really get that word out. And again, I want to put out there too, anyone who is anxious to be a part of Ruin a Bad Guy's Day radio with some more content and interviews, there's going to be a call for new guests. There's going to be a call for more guests for Ruin a Bad Guy's Day radio, because we're highlighting some of the top fraud fighters and practitioners in the industry for 2019. So I welcome those calls and I welcome the feedback. And everyone, I hope you have a great week.
Thanks for listening to Ruin a Bad Guy's Day radio podcast with Skip Myers.
If you liked our show, please tell your friends and colleagues.
You can learn more about us at ruinabadguysday.com or visit us on Twitter and Facebook at Ruin a Bad Guy's Day.
Join us for another episode of Ruin a Bad Guy's Day radio podcast.
The information provided in Ruin a Bad Guy's Day radio podcast is for informational purposes only. It should not be considered legal or financial advice. You should consult with legal counsel or other professionals to determine what may be best for your individual or organizational needs.